Next question, if you so significantly reduce the footprint, what is the impetus for keeping the same stormwater management system? What was the reason for keeping that the same size if you have such a drastically smaller project?
Well, it's drastically smaller building because of the 3 stories,
Right?
slightly smaller footprint because we're going to 1 story. So yes, the building size went down considerably. The impervious surface went down 10,000 square feet, which is a decent amount. But sure, we could have gone back and said, let's, make the detention basin a little bit smaller. But a larger detention basin is just going to provide more treatment and lower flows, post-development. So we're already showing, with a larger one, we were showing reductions in flows from 2-year to 100-year storm, and Oxford also makes us analyze the 100-year 12-hour storm. And we have reductions with the larger footprint. We ran the numbers with obviously the new, and we have slightly better decreases or more decreases. But you can imagine if you have a detention basin so DEP has a criteria of holding the water quality volume in a basin, which is the first 1.3 inches of runoff from the impervious surface. If you make your impervious surface smaller and you keep the detention basin the same, that's great. Now we're going to be holding the first 1.4 inches or 1.5 inches off of so there's no detriment to making. It's only an enhancement to keep the stormwater system the way it is.
So then, taking all that into consideration, that what I also hear is that there was not going to be any significant benefit or cost reduction of the project by scaling it back to conform with the reduction in size.
Construction of the building, yeah. I would say that significantly less. But site construction, not a significant cost savings.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Baker, just real quickly, the DEP regulations did change from the start of this project when it was with wetlands to the 2024 new regulations. So you complied with those. I think in the earlier go around, because we did work on that, but that change in regulations, you met the change in regulations.
Yes, they went from, specifically on the water quality volume, they went from 1 inch to 1.3 inches. There's some caveats in there with the DEP that if you have started an application under your regulations, you can still use them. We didn't try to do that. We lowered the bottom of the basin to make sure we got the 1.3 inches or the current criteria.
Thank you. Anything else, commissioners, for this presenter? Anyone? Okay.
With that, I'll have Bill Kenny come up.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about the
Very good.
landscaping buffer.
Good evening. I am Bill Kenny. I'm the principal of William Kenny Associates in Fairfield. I'm a professional landscape architect, wetland scientist, and soil scientist. And my firm was retained to help with this project in a number of different ways. One was to evaluate the natural resources on the property. Initially, primarily looking at wetlands and watercourses. We were involved in 2021 with the wetland permit application at that time. And then more recently, looking more broadly at the natural resources on the property with regard to your charge with this project. And then also working with the design team to come up with ways to minimize impacts and avoid impacts and environmental impacts, and then re-landscaping the property in a way that really fits in as best we can with the natural environment. And I'll just quickly review a few things that Brian also talked about. But the primary natural resource area on the property is the Little River in a floodplain marsh wetland that borders it on the eastern end of the property. There's another wetland system that comes down from west to east, north of the proposed building, and then empties into the Little River. Little River is more of a very gentle, fairly level stream, not much pitch to it. This other smaller stream, tributary, is much steeper, controlled by the bedrock in that area. And this area is a classic floodplain wetland. Otherwise, the property consists of agricultural fields, hay fields that have been there for many, many years, some woodland at the north end of the property, more of an ornamental landscape at the southern end of the property near the existing church building and parking, and a little bit of woodland also at the southern end, but primarily where the building and parking is proposed in the development features, it's a hay field for many years. There are some hedgerows and trees in there where the fields separate. The proposed landscaping, we really worked hard to bring nature back and enhance the natural features of the property. There are 5 landscape types on the property. 2 of those are environmental, strictly environmental, and that's the conservation easement at 7.4 acres. We're not proposing, we have a little bit of planting in there, but primarily we're keeping the natural landscape along the Little River, where we have the floodplain marsh. Working with the wetland agency, we did propose some shade trees along the river to try to introduce some shading along the stream to help control temperature, water temperature, and along that stream. So we have a number of shade trees along the stream. And then as you step back, so that conservation easement provides quite a buffer around the development. The development is really tucked up against the road, and the conservation easement wraps from the north along the east and then down around the south. And then stepping closer to the building, the proposed building and parking, we have another level of conservation planting, and that's really taking these stormwater management areas and creating native meadows, a combination of upland meadows and wetland meadows. And we're going to introduce some native shade trees in with that as well. The third type of planting is a planting along the road, and the road is a couple or 20 feet or so above where the parking in the first floor of the building will be. At the base of that slope, along the parking and along the entrance drive, we have a continuous row of evergreen trees and shrubs that are proposed along there to help buffer activities from the road and between and the church. So that's 3 areas, 2 environmental, 1 along the roadway. A 4th area of landscape is around the building. So as you arrive to the building, we're using a variety of native plants, ground covers, shrubs, trees, quite a bit of mix to create a beautiful environment as you enter the church and as you exit the church. I know that a significant architectural feature for the church in this southeast corner. You enter the church, not an expert in the entire layout of the building, but I do know that there's the very large gathering space, which is like the living room and the family room of the church, the community space. And there's going to be very large windows at that southeast corner where you can look out and just enjoy all the natural environment, really have a bit of a nature preserve here with the town-owned space to the east. So it's going to be quite spectacular there. The last type of landscape we have is within the parking lot. So we have introduced a number of trees, shade trees, some shrubs, mostly shade trees to try to moderate the heat island effect of the pavement. So those are there in total. There's over 60 shade trees proposed, 5 flowering trees, plus 80 evergreen trees, needle evergreen trees like spruce and white, 290 shrubs approximately, and then 1,500 perennials and other ground covers, and then 500 wetland perennials that will be planted within the stormwater basins. And that's pretty much it. So overall, we find that with this development, with the way it's been concentrated in an area that's primarily an existing greenfield, that the important environmental and natural resources are to the east of the development. There's a significant buffer between that and the development. There's substantial stormwater management during construction with the soil erosion and sediment controls, and after construction with all the stormwater management that Brian described. And with all of that, it is our conclusion that there's no significant impact, any significant resource here. Certainly, there's some lost habitat due to construction, but it's a common habitat, no listed species or species of threat that are being listed by the state. Please answer any questions.
Thank you. Anything? Right, okay. Thank you.
Jay Kleinman, I warned you that you'd hear from me again, so I'll apologize about that. I think, after listening to Bill describe the landscaping components of the project, I think it's a good time to reference the consistency with the plan of conservation and development and the comprehensive zoning plan. That, of course, is your guiding post when you're evaluating the proposed amendment to the zone map and the amendment to the zoning regulations that we have before you this evening. I won't do it. We've quoted several provisions of the plan of conservation and development in the application materials that we filed that our zone change and our regulation change further and satisfy, whether it's protection of inland wetlands, utilizing conservation areas to protect open space, and really building on the rural natural environment in Oxford. Certainly, the amendment to the zoning map and the change to the zoning regulations help make that happen. The stipulated judgment or the agreement reached between your colleagues on the Wetlands Commission and the folks at the church was the first step in making that conservation area, that 7.4 acre space protected in perpetuity. That was the first step in making that a reality. The next steps that need to happen in order to ensure that space is protected is, of course, the approval of the applications. So the approval of these applications will further those important public policy goals. But also mention on the text change, the regulation amendment, allowing that grading and site work closer to the property line. The more activity that we're doing closer to the property line, the less activity that is being done near those sensitive environmental areas that Mr. Kenny was referencing. So I think that's something that you all should keep in mind as you're evaluating those two specific applications. We can talk about the building design itself too before going to traffic. If you want us to touch on that briefly, I think Mr. Kenny talked about that. In working with the church, working with our project team, what I have found really interesting in putting these materials together is that everything is really purpose-driven, right? That's not just, what goes on Sunday mornings, but what has gone into the design of the building before you. I think Mr. Baker did a great job of comparing how this project is less intense than a project that you all saw a couple years ago, right? Two stories shorter, 55,000 square feet smaller. I mean, that's a significant decrease. And we think that's a good thing works for the church. We think that's a good thing for the town and a good thing for the property. Mr. Kenny alluded to the transparency of the window element that is located on the front of the building. The purpose behind that, not just proud of the design itself, but that we think that, Cornerstone, in talking to Pastor Chris, they want everyone to feel welcome at the church, right? If you're someone who hasn't grown up going to church every Sunday, Cornerstone's the place for you. And the transparency that is incorporated in the building design helps to deliver that message. All the different areas within the building itself, it's a space where you're not just listening to the pastor or whoever's speaking at the lectern. You're really encouraged to talk to the folks that you're sitting next to on Sunday. You could commune with them and gather with them before and after service. And there's spaces within the building for that too. What I do want to be clear about it, like I said, the old application, there were maybe some ancillary uses, non-church related uses. There are none of those within the building today. It's a church with space within it, just like many of the other. I'm Catholic. We, the place where we all went for mass and Sunday school, things of that nature. It's the same concept in this building. With that, I'll turn things over to Sharad to talk about traffic. I know traffic's always a big thing when it comes to a planning and zoning application. Sharad's the expert, so I'm not going to pretend. But what I will say before he comes up here is that if traffic is your concern, I can't think of a better use for this property. And that's because when this property is at its busiest during Sunday mornings, it's when the other uses in the community are less busy. We're not busy at all, right? If you have residential uses or commercial uses, those have peak traffic or the highest amount of trips coming in and out during the morning commute and the evening commute, right? So that's when you tend to see problems. This, if you see problems at all, this will be busiest on Sunday mornings when Oxford Road is in off-peak condition or there's not as much traffic on the road. So that's a good thing, and that's something that Sharad can speak to greater detail about with you folks right now.
Thank you.
I should thank Jay for introducing me to the traffic giveaway. Sharad Kalluri from CDM Smith, based out of East Hartford, Connecticut. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of Connecticut, state of New York, state of Mass, and state of North Carolina. And I'm also a licensed professional traffic operations engineer. It's a nationally certified license for traffic engineers in the United States. I also serve as a peer reviewer for Town of Westport. I work on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and I'm also serving as peer reviewers for many towns in the state of Connecticut. Before I get into the results of the traffic analysis, just want to kind of walk you all through the process of how we do the traffic studies, just so everyone can kind of understand. There's a lot of data involved behind it. What we did in this specific case is the project is on Route 67. So one of the things we get is the traffic data on Route 67. What are the counts on Route 67? So we put out a tube counter. You've seen those tubes lined up on the road. It's us. We basically put out the tubes. We get counts on Route 67. We classify the counts based on cars, trucks, buses. So we basically are able to get data from the field. We did it for this project. We conducted those counts back in October of 2024. You would say, why 2024? Why not 2026? So I work on many projects with Connecticut DOT in terms of permitting, in terms of jobs working for DOT. Typically, a 3 to 5 year time frame is good with DOT. So 2024. The good thing is it's post-COVID. Also, since COVID, we've seen across the whole state that traffic volumes have generally flattened. Before COVID, there used to be a defined morning peak and an evening peak. Now we're seeing that people are making trips more consistently throughout the day, so they're not as peaked. So basically, the 7-day traffic count allows us to measure that. So we conducted the count back in October 2024, and now that we work with the project team here to understand when this church is going to be in operation. That's the year we need to analyze. When the church is open, what's going to happen to the local area in terms of traffic. We talked to the DOT, they give us a sense of what the growth might be from 2024 to 2028. They have population and employment data that projects for each of the towns, and they can tell like within a specific time frame how much that's going to grow. So they gave us a 1% per year growth over the base year, which is the 2024 count. So we expanded all the traffic counts from 2024 over to 2028. So if you take 1% over 4 years, that's about 4%, roughly speaking, for the 4-year period. Then what we do is we need to know what the future church building is going to generate in terms of traffic. And as you heard, the peak times are the Sunday times. And we also look at the programming of the church. The Tuesday evenings were one of the other days during the weekday. As Jay already said, the good thing with the church activities, it doesn't coincide with the peak traffic on Route 67, because Route 67 generally peaks in the morning and the evening hours. And most of the church activities are either on a Sunday or late weekday evening time period. So that's important to understand, because we're not doing the max of Route 67 or the highest volume Route 67, the highest volume of the church. So that helps kind of smooth out a little bit of the correlation between the two activities. We look at ITE. So you heard the town's engineer talk about ITE in their comment. ITE is the Institute of Transportation Engineers. They're based out of Washington, D.C. I'm a member of ITE and serve on their board. And essentially what they do is they look at all different types of land uses across the country. Churches are one of them. They have offices, they have residential uses, and they come up with a sense of what the rate of generation, how much they would generate for traffic If you had 300 seats in a church, what would that number be? If you had 10,000 square feet of retail, how much would that number be? That's a book we use, and that's a book we always use. It's accepted by DOTs, accepted by the profession. So we use that to generate the traffic, which is what we did in this case, is we used that ITE trip generation table, which is what they call, book's name is ITE trip generation manual. And we use that to generate the traffic based on the number of seats. So there are 615 seats here. And if you look at table 2, it shows that in the off-peak times in the evening, which is where those Tuesday activities are, there's a number of 98 trips total. And then the morning on a Sunday, which Sunday is an important piece to understand, because what the manual gives us is the highest generation of traffic on a given Sunday. So that 337 number, sorry, you see, is essentially the total trips in an hour that will be generated by the church for 615 seats. So that's a pretty high number if you look at that ratio. So what we do then is we look at that 337 trips and we figure out how many are going in and how many are going out. And that's the 165 and 172. Then we take that traffic, we add that on top of the traffic on Route 67, which has now grown 4 years, so about 4% per year. And then we come up with the volume at the driveway, which is what you'll see in the diagrams in the back of our report. With those volumes, how do we know how does this driveway or other driveways work? Now there are 2 driveways versus the existing church has only 1 driveway. The proposed has 2 driveways. So we distribute the traffic based on how traffic would go out of the driveway. We come up with what's called a level of service. So the level of service is like a report card from A to F. A is good, F is bad. DOTs, and I can tell you based on experience from working with DOT, is level of service D is acceptable by DOT. If it's a residential commercial driveway, they accept the level of service D on a state highway. Sometimes E2. And even in the peak periods, if you have a 15-minute, 30-minute sport like at school, like if there's a state highway and you go to school, they accept a level of service E because they understand that that is a short fuse. Like it'll happen and it'll go away over the course of the hour. So in our case, and if you see the results of the analysis from table 4, we are showing at the church, the church driveway, which is to the west, we are showing a level of service C for the left turn. So the left turn, if you're coming out of the church, the left turn would be the worst movement because the left turn has to look at traffic coming to the left and traffic coming from the left. So they have to look at 2 ways before they get out of the driveway. That level of service is a C, and the same thing on the church driveway. Now, it's important to note, today there's 1 driveway. In the future, there are 2 driveways proposed. So there's a balancing act that will happen with people trying to get out of 1 driveway, they find that that's backed up, they'll go and decide they want to go to the other driveway. So that's the benefit of the site plan, is to be allowing more spreading out of that traffic over that time. We also did, on Sunday the 26th, we did a traffic count at the existing church. And we looked at the volume coming out. There's some peaking happening at 9:30 to 9:45. There's a good amount of people going in and out. There's traffic around 11 o'clock that goes in and out, and there's 1 o'clock. But we don't see any significant issues that changes our results in terms of level of service. We still maintain those level of service. Those spurts are 15-minute spurts. There's enough queuing distance on the site and allowing people to get in and out. Related to some of the comments we heard from the town engineer, I want to address a couple of his comments. The comments related to level of service C, we don't consider that to be a degradation. It's really level of service C is an acceptable level of service in our profession. Also, the concern of the queuing on Route 67, if you look at table 4, and you look at some of the queue lengths in table 4, the maximum or the highest queue that you see is on Route 67 is 2 feet. So 2 feet is not even a car length. So basically, these are vehicles that are sitting on Route 67, trying to make left turn into the driveway, waiting for the opposing traffic to get their distance. So that's the 2 feet we see on the second driveway. So we see the queues are very minimal. There's not a queuing, there's some queuing happening on the driveway, but if you look at that queue, that's 18 feet. So it's less than a car length, which is, car lengths are typically 20 to 25 feet, depending on what type of vehicle. So it's definitely accommodatable in the site plan, and we don't see that to be a concern on the Sunday peak hour. Now, going to this application will go to DOT, as Brian said, because it requires some sort of a DOT approval. And we are very confident that when we go to DOT, that they will not see a concern with the level of service we're showing, and even with that 15 or 20-minute spurt that we see from the counts we did a couple of Sundays ago. So we don't see any concerns. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any specific questions. Yes, sir.
How many services do they expect on Sunday?
How many services?
Yeah, so how many times is there a large group of people trying to leave the church on Sunday morning?
Oh, probably let the church answer them. Two.
Two?
Two.
Is it envisioned that will need to be traffic control officers at those times that people are leaving?
We don't, I mean, based on the analysis and based on that 15-minute things we see from the count, we don't see that to be a concern because there'll be gaps in traffic from on Route 67 that people will be able to get out. And with the two driveways, we certainly see there's more balancing going on. So we don't see a concern with kind of officer needed to let the traffic out.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. McSherry, go ahead.
Just a couple questions, and I know you got the answer from the pastor. On the website, it does list 3 different services on Sunday, an 8 o'clock service, 9:45, and 11:30. Would the intent to be because of the larger church to consolidate? Just on the driveways, and I know Shrai, you're an expert, and I appreciate all the work you do everywhere. On the driveways in the left-hand turn going out, either one of the driveways, would it be appropriate to try to limit one driveway being an exit only and sometime on Sundays? Does that make any sense at all, or is that something that you discuss with DOT?
You can discuss with DOT, but I don't see that to be efficient because I think that both the driveways align with what all the movements helps flush traffic, because when people are getting out of the parking space, they have a choice to make with their driveway, and it's very hard for us to predict what's going to happen when people leave at, in that 15-minute window, which is what we see as that peak time when people are trying to get in or out. I think leaving options open on both driveways to have them make that left turn would be a beneficial option versus trying to limit one to an exit only type of an option. That certainly could be worked out as DOT is not going to make the church do that. That's just an internal church operation.
There's a substantial distance between the driveways, obviously, at the opposite ends of the project. What's the distance between, Mr. Baker, to say that? So there's one inch. It's over 1,000 feet. And the sightlines are excellent there, right?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Lopez.
When you go back to 2 services, what are the service begin, start and stop times going to be?
Probably be easier for me to Pastor Chris Willis from Cornerstone Church. So we don't know for certain yet, but most likely we would probably do like a 8 and 10, 8:30 or 10 o'clock, somewhere in there. Right now, we're 8 o'clock in the morning. It's pretty early, but you know, people come out. So, but anyway, that's even earlier, was further alleviates, you know, the traffic.
And your services are about 90 minutes in length,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
As long as I keep it under control.
That stretch is a very concentrated stretch. So I'm looking at things like your entry and egress times. We've got St. Thomas the Apostle, which I have to go back and look, but right now it seems like there's not much overlap. I think it should be pretty clean, but I'll have to consider that looking with your newer times. And we also have Rich Farm to consider. So while, according to the traffic study, it seems like there's very little impact, there's a great deal of impact in a very, very narrow, very, very small stretch of roadway. And of course, the speed limit, the posted speed limit is 45, but we know that's just a suggestion. As our stop signs and the lights these days. I'm thinking about the traffic coming. I will say what does concern me, even though we have 1,000 feet of distance between your driveways, you're going in the same direction, right? So you've got your southern driveway that's going to head north and your northern driveway that's going to head south. Possible recipe for disaster. What about making one of them exit-wise northbound only and the other one southbound only? Intake doesn't seem to be a problem. I'm concerned when people are trying to cross 2 lanes of traffic.
Yeah, of course, yeah, absolutely. Certainly, we consider anything that would be safer for everybody and work best for the community. You know, I would argue right now we're in 3 services. We're running pretty high volumes of people every service and have had 0 complaints from Rich Farm or from the Catholic Church about any overlap or traffic problems currently. And this solution would actually back our times up even more, which would create even more margin for busy times for those respective neighbors. But but to your other concern, we would absolutely consider anything that's safer.
And I did notice, as I said a minute ago, that your times seem to be staggered enough that there isn't, you're not all competing for the same space at the same time. So I'll look at that again with the schedule. And thank you for being amenable to looking at the directional exits on both of those driveways.
Certainly.
Thank
Thank
you.
And just want to add, Rich's Farm goes open until Sunday at noon, so I don't know if we're looking at it. I get it, that we're not supposed to speak, but we're all public.
All right,
Yeah.
thank
Just let you know, noon.
you. We've got a lot to get through. Anybody have a question?
Yeah, I have one question related to traffic, if that's okay. And if you could just clarify, because I thought I heard you did say there was kind of an informal study done on Sunday. But however, if I recall correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, based on the Davis and Young letter, there was no official traffic study done for Tuesdays and Sundays. And I just asked why, if that was the case. I know you mentioned the ITE, but I mean, that doesn't replace real world data. You had the opportunity to do that. Was there a reason why you didn't do a traffic study on Sunday?
So we did do the counts on a Sunday just to verify the ITE. And so the count still used the ITE trip, with the study used the ITE trip.
Was that in here? Because I see I see ITE data, but I didn't see anything that was official.
The counts
Sunday or
were
Tuesday.
just collected last Sunday. So we certainly can provide you that information.
If you could, yeah, because I mean, it seemed like there was the opportunity to do it, and it was not done by choice. So I'm just curious.
So we can provide you.
Mr. one other question.
Go ahead. Good.
Just one other question. I know in your report, you do an accident evaluation, and you do an accident evaluation on the section 67.
Right.
Maybe you could tell the question about.
Yeah, so we do look at the crash analysis, the crash repository, and look at crash data. We didn't find any, we look at a 5-year period, and we didn't see any crash data that is in this area that would be a concern. So what's happening there?
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, I just had one on, continuing on traffic. Was there any, looking at 67, and especially the southbound side, if you're looking at any way of incorporating like a bypass, if there's going to be I understand 2 feet of queuing, right, is what the analysis says. I think the reality will be way different, especially during peak times. Is there an opportunity to create some kind of bypass? We had a similar situation at another site where we kind of wanted to like ensure that we could reduce that queuing at any of its worst times.
We did look at that, in fact, yesterday, me and Brian were looking at that. You typically get 22-foot wide area from the center line from the edge of pavement. I believe, Brian, there's 16.
Yeah, like 60 feet.
It's about 16 feet, so we don't have enough to provide that bypass. So we can't provide a left turn pocket, which is kind of what would be desired, but the bypass would typically be about 22 versus the 24 if you did a left turn pocket. The 16 itself doesn't get us to the 22, so we would need 6 more feet on that side of the road to allow for that bypass capability.
So if there isn't the opportunity to create the bypass, is there a look to make sure there isn't additional hazard with people trying to incorporate their phones, right? Like, is there any steep grading on that side? Is there anything that can cause a car to crash or end up in a small ravine?
The crash data itself doesn't reveal any kind of like rear ends, which is a common thing would happen when someone's making a left turn. Rear ends are very common types of accidents. We didn't see any patterns of crashes that are rear ends. Also, there's enough sight lines as your car come down 67. There didn't seem to be any concerns related to a car trying to make that left turn. We also see that with the queue length, that it's not going to be a queue of cars sitting there trying to make that left turn. But there's enough distance for someone to see that cars trying to make that left turn.
Thank you. Just, anything else?
Quickly, at the question about what does the grade look like to prevent that, so it does slope down pretty quickly there. It's basically just north of the Ridge Farm driveway. So if you're driving up, you see the grass slope comes down the road, so they're really not the opportunity to find these.
Thank you. Anything else from the applicant?
No, not at this point. We're happy to hear from our neighbors who are here. And certainly, some of the questions and comments that Keegan has relates to traffic. We have some homework, and expect this area to be kept open, so we can work on our homework. If there's anything else that he wants to work on, please let us know.
Sorry, go ahead, Kevin.
We didn't really talk much about the text amendment or the zone change. If you could, I'd just like to address the zone change, why it's necessary. And I know from a legal standpoint, we'd like to have it all uniform. But if you didn't make that change, how would it affect your project if you didn't make that change?
Sure, absolutely. So to be clear, it is, as Brian mentioned earlier, it's 3.5 acres of the 16-acre parcel that is lot 22. The impact of the denial of that zone change would be that we would have a residential zone line that is within our own property. And there are sections of the zoning regulations that allude to a requirement of providing a setback, not just from property lines, but from zone lines. And that would create, perhaps even a hardship on any future use of this property. Where not only do you have to abide by a front yard setback, side yard setback, rear yard setback, the conservation upland review area of 100 feet, you then also have to develop your property setback from that zone line. So that's really I would say, an additional reason to approve the zone change. Does that answer the question?
It does, and then the other text amendment, which allows for the 50-foot excavation area. We didn't really talk about where that's going to be done on the property, and then maybe something that we talked about. I think it's part of both public hearings, but
Sure.
maybe if Mr. Baker could address the 50 feet, where that's going to take place, and how it's going to affect the project.
Sure.
I'm glad to give Mr. Baker some work to do.
So the excavation within 50 feet of the property line is basically along the front here, as our parking comes in and we drop down, the driveway comes in and drops down. So these parking spaces here, and we have a retaining wall to hold that back. So we wanted that to be within 50 feet, because as Jay mentioned before, that allows us to push everything as close as possible towards the road and keep it away from the river itself. And that, the text though is written that way for other zones in town. Where you allow that, subject to your commission's approval, that you would be allowed to excavate within that 50 feet. So it's not an as of right thing, it's if the commission allows them. If the commission would like, which we're saying it's a good idea because that would allows us to keep that building and parking further from the wetlands and closer to the road.
And I guess one other thing, a lot of moving the project towards the road was to preserve travel time of water running off the parcel to the little river, allow the temperature to change that.
Right, you've got, that gives you more room for bigger buffer, more room, more vegetation. That's, allows for that attenuation of the temperature
as well.
Because right now, yeah, I mean, that section of river, there's really no trees along it. You go up by it, is hit by direct sunlight, all summer now. There'll be shade there plus infiltrating. We're also taking water that runs off the state road now and providing treatment and infiltration of that. So if anything, it's going to lower the temperature in that water, not have any negative impact.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, thank you. All right, so we're gonna move on to the public.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
And I'm happy to wait till the end, but I just want to make sure that we're going to have an opportunity as part of the hearing to talk about the footprint of the building, some of the things that are going on in the rest of the site.
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. We just want to get through the public because obviously there's a lot of you here and I have no idea who wants to speak and I have no idea who's for and who's against. But in the effort to keep things coordinated for staff, we'd like to start off with anybody who wants to speak against this applications. Come on up, give your full name and address, please, and we're going to limit everybody to 2 minutes, okay? So anybody who's against this application, want to speak? If no, that's fine. Okay. Oh, we have one.
I am a bordering property, and to say that we keep focusing on Sundays, but what about a holiday mass? Christmas, we see in St.
Yeah, excuse me, sorry, name and address.
Oh, I'm
please.
sorry, Amanda Williams, 718 Oxford Road.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we keep mentioning Sundays and the occasional Tuesday, but what about a Christmas mass for the roads? St. Thomas is a much smaller congregation, and they require police officers, there's multiple police officers when they hold their Christmas and holiday masses. What would the plan be to move they're occurring here? And at the same, if they were to be at the same time or similar time, what would the impact of it be on traffic? And environmental impacts aside, to say there's no species of concern is a little concerning. I've again on bordering property. We have fox turtles, we have spotted turtles, we have the brook trout, we have, to say there's no species of concern that would be impacted, I think is a little disappointing. And another thing is so we're talking about masses. What about the camps? There's large camps in the summer. What about those impacts on traffic? I mean, and just overall, I'm just a bit confused why we're not talking more about the traffic. I see we have our professional here, but that was held on a random Sunday mass, their survey. What about, again, a holiday mass? One of these larger impact days, what would the effect be then? I see, again, traffic through St. Thomas. When their masses are held, there is multiple cars lined up to turn onto Perry. So again, they have 2 driveways, and that impact on a much smaller facility is quite large, to get out of my driveway or to even go along 67 and Lincoln's Avenue. And that's, again, a much smaller facility. This is nearly 250 car parking lot. What happens on that day is a full house. To say, again, the minimal impact, I think, is questionable at best. Our county easement, the 50-foot property line. To say, our town has given quite a few concessions to this project, and to build this knowing that you need another exemption to the property lines, I think that's a little upsetting that, again, we did land swap, we did all these things, and we still are being asked for more as townspeople in our project that affects our whole community. And that's my 2 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is there anyone else that would like to speak against the applications? Well, name and address, please.
My name is Isabella Markauer, and it's 35 Peach Farm Road. I'd just like to bring attention to the fact that the reason
reason this project is possible is due to land swap that was first approved by the Board of Selectmen.
I'm sorry.
Mr.
Excuse
Chairman,
me.
we can't hear you.
We're having a hard time hearing.
This better?
Yes,
Yes.
much better, much better.
Well, I'd like to bring attention to the fact that the reason this project is possible is due to the land swap that was first approved by the Board of Selectmen in 2020 on the town's charter. Land seller transfers are required to be heard at a public meeting. The land swap that happened never had a public hearing. This occurred because under Governor Lamont's executive order number 70J, public hearing requirements were waived for town business deemed essential during COVID. I understand that the land swap has not been finalized and not necessarily speaking on the merits of the current application. I would simply like to point out that I do not believe the land swap was necessarily essential, and there clearly would have been enough public interest to warrant waiting for the possibility of a hearing that wasn't finalized until recently.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? Going once, going twice. Okay. Now, is there anyone that wants to speak on behalf of the applications? Hang on a second.
Yeah.
Where do I sign up?
Probably have one piece, one second, right?
You lost 1 minute.
Just keep that for the record, please.
I have another piece of correspondence to read into the record from Emily Williams, 32 Towner Lane, Oxford. I oppose this project due to traffic, environmental impact, and taking away.
Sorry.
It looks like LNES. I can't decide.
I can't decide. Yes?
I think it's supposed to be lines.
Lines?
Maybe it's talking about.
We got the gist of it. We got the gist of it. Okay, let's move on to anyone who wants to speak for this application. Oh, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, my name is William Dalton. My real name is Pete. I grew up a couple of hundred yards from here. 76 years ago, my parents moved here. I was 3 years old. Oxford was wonderful. This is where I grew up in these hills. We had a church. We had a Sinatra store. We had a school. After I started some time getting an education as an engineer, my brother got an engineering degree. We ran the Stephen B. Church Company here in Oxford for 45 years. And my wife and I moved to Oxford. We loved Oxford. We built a home up on 11 Great Oak Road next to the Old Berkshire Ranch. I just want to share with you that all these buildings are wonderful, but I want to share from my heart. And I'm speaking to you all today. The Lord Jesus changes people's hearts. He changed my heart. When I came out of Vietnam, I was a mess. But I want you to know that this building is going to help people to grow and to be transformed by the mercy, by the grace, and the love of our Lord Jesus Christ. Thank you very much. I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate what you're
Okay, anybody else? Come on up.
My clock hasn't started yet, has it? Okay, good evening. My name is Clifford Anderson, and my wife Louise and I have lived at 27 Whitegate Road here in Oxford for 47 years. We raised our 2 children here in Oxford, and it's been a wonderful place for our children to grow up and for us to live. We are members of Cornerstone Church. We started attending this church in 1986, and we're very much in favor, obviously, of the town approving the application for the new building in Oxford, on Oxford Road. In addition to the needs of the congregation, the pastor and the leadership team have always focused on serving the needs of the community. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the benefits of having this church in Oxford as opposed to the zoning regs and some of these other things that we've talked about today. So just a few examples of what Cornerstone has done to benefit Oxford, the Oxford residents, and the surrounding community. At Christmas time, Cornerstone generously gives to needy families in the area, in Oxford and in the surrounding area. And they give donations or assistance for food and most recently for heating oil. In 2025, Cornerstone blessed 61 families with heating oil assistance. And between 2018 and 2025, we've blessed over hundreds of families to the tune of about $271,000 in assistance. And after the flood in August of 2024, Cornerstone arranged for Convoy of Hope to send a tractor trailer to the church property, and the church members volunteered to give out cleaning supplies, water, and food stuff to all the people who were in need. And we spent a week giving this out to the community, free of charge. This past Easter, we had teams of volunteers handing out bags of groceries along with a generous groceries gift card to people who were in need. And there's other things that I can talk about as well. These are just a few of them, but for the sake of time in my 2 minutes, these are just a few examples of the benefit of having this church located in Oxford. Now, we've outgrown our current building, and this new building will allow Cornerstone to accommodate the current membership, but also increase their outreach and the help that we can provide to the community. So it's my understanding that Cornerstone Church has made numerous concessions and accommodations, based on the recommendations of the town of Oxford to be coming in compliance. And I think we've seen that today, that we're still willing to do modifications. But, based on the benefit of having this church and all the things that they do in town, and as a longtime Oxford resident and a past chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals, I would think that the Oxford PNC and the town of Oxford, and the people of Oxford, would eagerly approve the Cornerstone application and allow us to build this new building so we can further benefit the community. Thank you.
All right, thank Folks, we're going to ask you to please refrain from the applause when anybody speaks, be it for or against, doesn't matter.
It's okay, I'll get us back on track. Since we're over 2 minutes. Jason Walker, 7 Hilltop Road in Oxford, and my wife Shannon and I lived in Oxford, her 30 years, myself over 40 years. And I'll keep my comments brief in the interest of time. I'll just say, we've heard a few examples that Cliff just talked about of what the church has done for the community over the years. I can say firsthand, for 20 years, I've seen that firsthand in our family and other families of the church and the surrounding community, the impact the church has had. So we are strongly in favor of the building. So appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, anybody else?
Good evening, Brent Suskin, 47 Hacksback Road. My wife, Melissa, is also in the audience. They've talked about most of the things. I want to talk about also just the VBS that's offered free for the town residents as well. I think also that the church itself has gone over and above trying to, accommodate everybody's concerns and everything, the increase that is now available. So my wife and I stand fully behind 7-2621, 7-62622, and 7-2623 to be amended. And as far as any others, as a member of the church too, if you have concerns, just like the pastor said, we are here willing to, accommodate fully for the community, for the safety. So we'll be standing fully approving this zoning change.
Excuse me, sir, just one thing. I know what it stands for, the Vacation Bible School, is that what, the VPS? is that
Yes,
what-
oh, I'm sorry, I apologize, yes.
Connecticut is a state of anagrams and stuff like that.
I apologize. Thank you for clarifying, yes, Vacation Bible Schools for this, children.
All right, thank you.
It was a good guess, thank you.
All right, anybody else? Oh, I think somebody beat you to it. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Leah Forcier. I live on 4 Old Twanick Hill Road. I've been an Oxford resident for 33 years, and I've been attending Cornerstone for approximately 20 years. I've raised my kids in Oxford, and they have benefited from going to youth group throughout their childhood, and I'm in agreement with this project.
All right, thank you. Thank you, come on up, sir.
Thank you, Mike. I'm Liz Stanley, I live at 660 Roosevelt Drive. And I was just reminded, as you said, the Pledge of Allegiance, you said that we are one nation under God. And as such, I think the town of Oxford should be happy that we have a dynamic church in town that I attend. My children grew up and we benefited tremendously. So I'm strongly endorse this project. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Anyone else? Oh, okay, come on up.
Hi.
Go ahead.
My name is Exie Garcia. I've been a resident in Oxford my entire life. I live at 19 Jenny Lane, and I'm currently a student at Oxford High School. I've been attending Cornerstone Assembly God for the last 5 years, and it's quickly became a crucial part of my life. It's not just a place I go to 3 times a week, but a community that has shaped me. It's a place where people feel supported, where friendships begin and grow, and a place where people can go for a safe and positive environment. I've personally witnessed how this church brings people together, both in times of stress and times of peace. It gives adults, teenagers, and children a place to build community, find encouragement, and grow as individuals. As a student growing up in Oxford, having a place like this has truly changed everything. It's made my life look different, and it's given me a sense of belonging and support that I know many others truly value. It's something that continues to shape who I am, and I'm very grateful for that, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it's going to shape those who come up after me. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Hi, my name is Kelly Steves. I reside at 11 Butternut Bridge Road, Oxford. We actually own a few properties, businesses, been here most of my life. And I'm a member of Cornerstone for about 13 years. It's been life-changing. My children have gone through the youth services that they offer, VBS, Vacation Bible School. And my daughter started high school this year. It hasn't been that great. And she started Bible. They started doing a Bible study in the high school. That just doesn't happen. That's because of this church. They're changing our youth, and we need this in our church. And you know, it would have been a lot cheaper and a lot easier for them to just find a building. But they believe in this town. They believe that you guys are going to do the right thing and vote this through. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
How you doing, Christopher Vale? I started coming to Cornerstone in 2021, I believe. I was actually on the way to Black Rock, and then my wife reminded me that I was late as usual. So we looked up another one and found Cornerstone. It was always that cute little white church. I went to a Catholic high school growing up, Notre Dame, West Haven. I was Roman Catholic and hated church. And Cornerstone I love, possibly because Pastor Chris is from Oklahoma and he runs excavators sometimes. But he really gets involved in his members' community, and you know, I had to come to the church after some difficulty that I've had in the past with some towns. And the building's packed every service. They really need to expand. I don't like the 3 services because then I might end up having to see someone I don't like when I really would like to see everyone, and then be forced to like them. And money is the root of all evil. So loss of tax revenue really isn't good look if that's the reason why it would be improved, especially considering it's on a state road, which costs nothing to tax revenue, and they've done everything right. All Oxford small businesses are going to benefit from this traffic and will in return increase the values just from this added business. And my family loves going there. I couldn't imagine going anywhere else on Sunday when I do get to go to church. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody? Okay.
Hi, my name's Aaron Johnson. My wife Heather and I live at 500 Boulder Pass at the Quarry Walk. And I think one of the things that stands out about Cornerstone is how invested we are in the community. Obviously, you've heard the testimony of all the different ways that we gave food and oil and all those different things to benefit people in the community. But on top of that, especially as a resident of Quarry Walk, we're heavily invested in those businesses being fed, being sewed into, and so we have services at least once a year out on the Oxford Green. We partner with Charlie Lemon. We formerly partnered with Shake This. We have a lot of just different connections with people like that because we're heavily invested in not just people in Oxford being fed, but people in Oxford also like growing in the community growing as a whole. We are also heavily invested in the next generation. We love kids, we really do. We love kids, we love students of all ages. And so we do have different ministries and different events that we have for kids from 2 years old all the way up to seniors in high school. We have ministries that are available for young adults as well because we care for your kids and we want them to find a place where they can call home, a community they can be a part of, a place that they can get involved in, a place where they can find purpose. Where they can find community. We have fine arts competitions that we attend where they're able to exercise different kinds of art, different kinds of public speaking and singing and just encouraging all aspects of what it means to be a kid, be a teenager and grow in their life. And so, our vision and our goal is to see these kids just find community and find people that love them and to grow alongside of them. And so, yeah, I just want to speak to that briefly. We're heavily invested in Oxford and its next generation.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Marisa Hillman. I'm at 2 Sarah Drive. My husband, Brad, and I have been here since our 10th year at Oxford. And just kind of to add a little bit to especially talking about the kids. I have 4 children. I'm raising I have 4 daughters. They are 12. I have 2 8-year-olds and a 3-year-old. They're not sports kids, and Cornerstone has been it's wonderful for them. We actually started there because of their Vacation Bible School. We were members. We were accepted. They go there every Sunday. It's not a boring, stuffy Sunday school that I went to and hated. They love it. My oldest daughter is really getting into the Forge program. She loves it. She's finding her own little community, which is just great. So as a parent, I think Cornerstone is a really valuable spot for us to have.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Chairman, everyone. I'm Gino Thomas. Resided at 3 Hartcourt. I've been a resident just for 4 years in Oxford now. We moved from New Milford before. And I've had attended a few services here in Townsend Church. And in all the services which I attended, I've seen one situations where if you're even late for 5 minutes, you're probably not going to get a seat, have a seat to be seated. That shows one thing, and for Pastor Chris, God's definitely doing work in Oxford, and we have hit the physical limit. Now it's time to expand, to have a bigger space for more people to come in and have God's work be done in the city of Oxford. My kids are excited when they came for the VBS last year, and this year, I think 3 days back, we got an email from the church. Hey, the registrations are open. My kids were excited, and they pulled me over, had it registered then and there itself. Probably I was the first one to register for the VBS this year. I thank Pastor Chris and the church and everybody who are making a big change in the city of Oxford. And God is going to do mighty things in this place. And it's time for our expansion, both here as physical as well as the kingdom of God. Thank you. God bless.
Excuse me, sir, can you tell us your address again, please? Your address.
3 hot coats.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's on the sheet.
Thank you.
Oh, it is.
All right, anybody else? There we go.
Works for short people. My name is Joel Smith. My wife Robin and I live at 26 Pine Street. I was born and raised in Oxford, so that was 51 years ago. I grew up with Jessica. Hi, Jessica. And I was away for 10 years, starting my family in Derby, and then 12 years ago, moved my family back here to Oxford because it's such a great place to be. And 4 years ago, my family started going to Cornerstone, and we love it. It is an awesome church. I'm a born-again Christian, cleverly disguised as an architect, and I'm a licensed building official in the state of Connecticut. And as a design professional and proud Oxford resident, I wholeheartedly support the building project proposed for Cornerstone Church. I also invite each of you, whether you decide to approve this or not, I invite each of you to one of our 3 Sunday services to experience for yourself the awesome things that God is doing at Cornerstone.
Thank you. All right, looks like we have somebody.
I'm a short one. My name is Heather Johnson. I live at 500 Boulder Pass. I'd like to think that you and I are not that different. You guys come out to serve our community, you serve our town because you believe in its future. You believe in the future and the hope of Oxford. I don't know if you have kids or grandchildren, but I can imagine that why you sit in the seats that you sit in is because you desire this town to be something more than it is. I happen to be in a position of the church where I work with teenagers. And why I do that is because I believe in the hope of their future. I believe in the future that they are going to one day pass the baton. I will pass the baton to them, and they will walk out into this world where we will no longer be, but we have given them the tools and the mindset to work hard, to love their neighbor, to care for one another, and to serve the Lord. This building is an echo into the future of the hope that you and I will not necessarily see. It will outlive us because we believe in the future of these children. And I was talking to the richest farm guy over there, he's my best friend, saved my butt many times by giving me pay. But what he doesn't know is that he has played a part in our future. I work with a lot of teenagers that are wrestling with things that are very raw and real in this world. They have access to every corner of the world on a small device of theirs. And I've sit many times in his parking lot over ice cream, talking about the future and the hope that if they would just live one more day, if they would just see the future that they have, they would experience what God has designed for them. I know that we might be on different sides trying to figure out all of this, but this building, I promise you, is a beacon of hope. Whether you vote with us or not, you, your children, and your children's children will have the opportunity to experience the hope that Cornerstone is laying out before the town of Oxford, because it's not just about the town of Oxford. It's about the God that we serve, and we believe that He has the answer and the hope that we desire. And I hope that from what the testimonies you've seen tonight, that you would see this echo of hope throughout our community, and that it will continue to live on.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Okay. All right, so what I'd like to do is I'll call back the applicant. If there's anything you wanted to address based on what we heard, beyond that, I think the commission probably has some questions.
I think we're ready to proceed to the questions.
All right, so we will throw it open to the commission. Anyone? Carl?
the actual architectural drawings weren't addressed, and I'm referring to A1, this one.
Floor plan, I think you're looking at, is that correct?
The sanctuary
Yes.
in the main lobby, are they at base elevation 100?
Yes.
Is the sanctuary an auditorium type sanctuary where it's sloped down to the stage? Or is it flat?
It is flat, it is a flat floor.
It's all at elevation level. Okay. Looking at your elevations, the highest elevation I could find was 34 feet. 134 from the base elevation of 100. Is that correct? With the exception of the cross, which goes higher, but I won't consider that part of the building.
That is correct.
Okay, so
Southeast elevation.
the building fits within the 35-foot height constraints.
Yes. Yeah, that's typically taken, average grade around the building, so that's your worst case scenario. It could even be higher and you take average grade.
I think your application says the area of the building is 24,987 square feet. But then I find a little outbuilding that's just short of 1,000 square feet. I'm just curious why that wasn't included in the total area.
Separate accessory.
Brian, if I could jump in here, that was included in the coverage, total coverage calculation, but that's a separate accessory structure, they're two separate structures.
Okay, that's all I got for now.
Okay, anyone else? This side?
Yes, understanding that this is a house of worship, is there any plans in the future for any residential development at all?
No.
No.
Okay.
I should have looked back first, but no.
Thank you.
Anyone on this side? Nothing? Back on this side?
Yeah, I have a few.
Go ahead.
I have a
Go.
few.
Go.
I tried to, pocket them by topic. Looking at the, you have no basement, so what is your foundation going to be? Is it gonna be slab, is it gonna be crawl space?
It's a slab on grade. I don't know if we're gonna have a small utility space, crawl space, they may.
And what was the thrust behind going with slab as opposed to full basement?
We could check with the architect, I think some of it's cost, it's, not necessary to have a basement. And overall square footage, we wanted to make sure we got 25,000 square feet.
Also, you have a fuel storage area along Route 67, and I see in your design plans that it's surrounded by concrete block.
That's for during construction, yeah.
For your, okay, so it's not gonna be a permanent fixture?
No.
Okay. As far as your kitchen and your cafe, how many do you anticipate that accommodating?
So that area is a place to congregate after a service.
Right, for fellowship.
Right, for fellowship. I don't know, Pastor, I don't know that everyone, some folks might not be able to stick around, but certainly that's a space that could accommodate, a healthy number of parishioners. Well, what the fire code would say, I don't know.
So you don't have a capacity, an estimated capacity?
We could give you an estimate based on what we would project, but certainly, something that I think was read in the fire marshal's comments, we'll obviously have to satisfy all elements of the fire code before building permit or CO or anything like that.
And there'll be tables and chairs that'll be set up for relaxing and fellowship after services, okay. And beyond fellowship and your obvious fundraisers throughout the year, are there going to be any kind of revenue generating activities? And what I say, let me be specific, when I say revenue generating, I understand that churches have fundraisers. I'm talking about bringing additional funds into the church that aren't specifically geared for religious activities. So like opening up to the public, something to that effect. Okay. And there was also, in the application about waste oil storage, that you will not need to have those separators on site because the waste oil is going to be carted away. So I'd like to know where it will be stored, how much you intend to store in between removals, how it's going to be set up to manage spills, and what are going to be the aesthetics around it.
I have to look at the application, this waste oil storage for, I think that had to do with like kitchen oil?
Yes, kitchen oil.
Okay, you really went to the nitty gritty. Well, we'll get to those details. Yeah. And I think, we appreciate all the questions, we can iron this thing out. I think, again, it's sort of like the comment earlier, I'm sure the health department will be looking at that too before building a permit and see how.
And help me understand a little bit about the parking. You reduced the size, you reduced the number of parking places from 300 to 246. That was part of the stipulation. Given the reduction in the size of the capacity, right, you've lost about 135 seats. Does it make sense to keep that parking, or would it benefit you to whittle it down even further?
We can explore that, but I think what we'd rather be, have room than not have the room. And I think, as Brian mentioned, the stormwater system can accommodate all of that. I think too, Brian, I don't know the exact numbers, we're under the maximum impervious cover as well. So it's not like we're cheap to jowl in terms of paving the site.
All right, you also have a space, again, along 67 for snow storage. Tell me a little bit about what that's for, please. Help us understand how you're going to utilize that.
So that's, along 67. Right. So as part of the snow management, they're gonna plow the snow towards those spaces away from the river. As part of, again, in our negotiation with wetlands, any sand or salt gets pushed to the far side away from the river, and therefore, as that melts, it goes through the entire storm drainage system versus plowing it towards the river.
So literally storage rather than, like you see, you see in the parking lots where now we have many mountains of snow. Okay, thank you. I have some questions about scope, right? You did mention in your application letter about the difference in size, the difference in capacity. So I took the opportunity to go back and look at the original application. And of course, you had classrooms, you had a gymnasium in there, you had meeting rooms, you were gearing up for scouting for boys and girls, and if my notes are correct, you were gearing up for like 120, 140 children to be participating in these youth events. So you changed the size, obviously, quite significantly, scaled down the number of classrooms, the meeting spaces. What happens to all those visions of how you were going to bring in the youth and serve the community? Where are those kids going to go? Where are those meetings going to take place now?
By me coming up here, they don't know.
Makes perfect sense.
But so in part of this process, we've been in this process for 10 years trying to get this building approved. And in part of that process, we acquired some space in Southbury. So we moved all of our offices over there, which we were able to take our entire office suite out of the project. You heard a lot of testimony about our intention to reach the the younger generation. So that was the need for, we had a lot of vision to open the gymnasium to the community and things like that. But to get under 25,000 square feet, that's a massive part of that larger building. So we took that off of the plan. Many of the classrooms that the previous building provided, I believe there was 13, that was by virtue of the fact that it was a basement foundation, so it presented itself. We do have these scouting programs. They've existed we've had them for 30 years. And so we currently do them now, but we work on allocated space instead of shared space to be able to solely do that in that lower level. But now that we're on a slab, we're just going to keep doing it the way we've been doing it. And so certainly it makes it a little more challenging because, we asked for the sun, moon, and stars whenever we offered our first application because we really wanted to, I wanted to present and to try to produce a building that would last for a very, very, very long time, way after me. And so that's where some of those things went. Our little space in South Berry also has some small classrooms that need are very unique as well.
So instead of absorbing them all into this facility, you parse them out, essentially?
They parse out,
Okay.
correct.
Okay. All right. Yeah, just give me 1 second to work my thoughts. The church itself, okay, is square. It's a square with attractive veneers. And was that by design to possibly accommodate expansion upward at a later date?
Oh, no. You mean the design here?
Yes.
No, it's not designed for further expansion.
Because I will comment that while the veneers are attractive, it doesn't fit the personality of the area when you look at the housing that we have in the area, when you look at St. Thomas, when you look at your own existing sanctuary. I find that it doesn't fit the landscape, so it would be interesting to see what thoughts you might have about making it look less like a box and more like a house of worship.
So, I understand, well, certainly we would take everything into consideration. I think we've shown that, we've sharpened our pencils many, many times with this process, so we'd be willing to look and do whatever we need to do. At the end of the day, we just want to serve people, so however we gotta do that.
Mr. Chairman, that's all. I presume that we're going to have another opportunity to
Oh, we will,
digest
yeah,
all this and come
no,
back, so that's all. for now.
Absolutely,
Thank you.
but Commissioner Swan has something to.
Sorry, really quick, I apologize, I have a lot going on here. My notes in terms of what I'm taking away, but I forgot I wrote something up here, just very briefly. There was a mention during the audience of citizens regarding St. Thomas requiring police during high traffic or high volume holidays. Does Cornerstone use police for any special holidays? Did they intend to, or are they open to looking at something like that?
So for the past several years, we have rented space at Palm Rock High School. We've rented Oxford High School as well. Because we're in a 3-service format, usually when we do a Christmas service or an Easter service, we do what's called one big service and we bring everybody together. But that's been at a rented facility. So we've never had that need to do that at our current facility. However, we would have absolutely zero problem hiring police. But, at the end of the day, we want people to be safe, right?
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, anyone else?
Yeah.
Mr. McSherry, go ahead.
Just a couple of things on the proposed building floor plan, A1. I'm noticing that in the different storage areas inside the building, there's fire equipment located in several of the areas. But the largest area, which is the storage area, which is the sanctuary, I think that would be a more appropriate thing for fire equipment to be stored. And I would feel better if I was attending the church that that's where I'd have some fire equipment stored for safety purposes. And maybe that's just you'd add that to that point. I think that I know there's gonna be sprinklers. We'll get clarification on that. But I think that where that says firehouse in the building, that's like where the water ties in, so there's mechanical equipment that goes adjacent to the wall there. So if we get some detail on that, that'd be helpful. To echo what Commissioner Chappucki said about the design of the building. 8.13.1 of our regs reads as follows: all non-residential uses shall be designed to be consistent with the residential character of the area. I would think that making a change to the look of the building in the front would be something that would be easy. There's some eaves in, or something that a gable, something that makes it more residential looking. I don't expect it to look like a house, but I think it would be more appealing to the eye. Your current church certainly has that appeal to it. And I think when you drive up and down the road there's not a lot of commercial uses, so everybody's got an old farmhouse, but I don't expect to make it look like a 1712 farmhouse, but it just make it more easy on the eye. The other thing, in the wetlands approval that you just recently got, it referred to the earlier approval that was done by stipulation in court. It was dated March 28, 2024, and I'll be glad to send it to Attorney Klein, and then you can split it as part of the record. So I think that'd be appropriate because there's a modification to that approval by the site plan, but I think the integral parts of stipulation, you take a look at it, I think it's appropriate for this commission.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I might have had trouble hearing the memo from the Wetlands Commission to be incorporated into this record. Yeah. Yes.
Well, the approval
yes
is part of the record.
Yes.
What I'm talking about is a stipulation for judgment.
Oh, yes. Yes, I thought we included that in our application. Yeah, I'll double check.
I just think that's important because it gives all the guidelines that Mr. Baker was referring to, about all the work that went into making that plan work.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yes.
Good, Kevin?
I guess.
All right, if the commission has no other questions right now, go ahead.
One quick one, sorry, Kevin jogged my memory.
Sure.
May just not be germane to this floor plan design, but where are your emergency exits? We were just not portrayed here. I don't see anything at the back of the sanctuary.
Well, while Brian's looking, that is, if they're not shown, that's something that would typically be shown, again, the first step is conservation, second step is you folks, then the third step is the building official, the fire marshal, ironing all of those things out. We can identify those for you before the next meeting. But we will need to do that, no matter what.
All right, anything else for the commission? No? Okay, I think we're good for the applicant, thank you very much. What I'd like to do.
Oh, I'm sorry, I may be interrupted, will this be continued to?
Yeah,
next
that's
meeting?
what we're getting to here.
Sorry.
Yeah, so what I'd like to do is, at this point, entertain a motion to recess this public hearing. We had some items, some questions, and probably gonna have a little more questions back and forth, right? So
May 19th.
to, what's the date?
May 19th.
May 19th?
I'll make a motion to recess the public hearing for application number Z-26-21 and application number Z-26-22 and application number Z-26-23, the next planning and zoning meeting on May 19th at 7 p.m.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thanks, everyone.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Luckily, I.
What do you do? Yeah, what do you think?
I think was the question about.
Give me that now. Nice to see you. How you doing? I think we should just have a motion to adjourn. We have quorum. Do it, Carl, do it. A motion to adjourn.
We can do the rest of this agenda in 5 minutes.
There's not nine.
Yeah.
It's all done. I think it's all done, right?
You do need a chair.
Anybody can make me. We are, in fact, and we are still streaming live.
Okay, good. All right, we only got a couple more things to go through.
Yeah.
Linda will be right back.
Okay. I was thinking the same thing. She's so much nicer than sweaty.
I have a question before you start.
A question?
Just.
What are they doing with the current church?
We can't.
We can't speak.
You can't talk.
If you read the documents that were submitted to the town, it's in there. Okay, it's all in the application.
I can tell you tomorrow. I can tell you tomorrow.
All right, let's resume regular business. We're up to amendments. Do we have any amendments?
No.
Yes, no, okay. Correspondence? No, we already had, very good. Audience of citizens, you can't ask any questions. Old business?
Our groupie is in here.
No, I know.
I was wondering.
Strange. All right, so old business, none, new business, none, zoning enforcement's not here, invoices.
None.
None?
None.
Other business? Here we go. All right. Anybody have anything? Apparently, my friend Mr. Dexter does. Go.
This is quick. For the next agenda.
Yep.
Can we talk about fees? Our fee
Fees?
schedule, we have not updated our fees in a very, very long time.
Okay, Jess, what do you think?
I mean, I think there's a lot of things we haven't talked
I agree, so I want to get it on our bucket list.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we can put it on there.
We start discussing, we haven't updated them since 2014.
2014, really?
2014.
Yeah.
Every 10 years sounds good.
Okay, not a problem. Do we have to engage George's office or no? When we talk about fees, it doesn't matter.
I mean, if we did, we could present something or talk to him after.
Oh, yeah.
Discussion.
I think the fees get adopted by ordinance.
By ordinance.
By ordinance, so they get modified by ordinance, so whatever gets proposed by us will be adopted as part of the ordinance.
Gotcha, okay. All right, great. Commissioner Dexter.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Oh, I just
talked to Kevin and I didn't catch any of that. Repeat. Jason second.
Wait, that's it?
Yep, that's it. That's all we got.